Hello YouTube. So this is part 2, and I wanted to show you the rest of building out this NES Repro. There's databases online. I'll leave a link in the description to a database where you can search the game that you have that you're using as a donor cart. That'll tell you what PC board is inside of it, what type of board like this, and then based on that, what other games share the same PC board. Now, one other quick note is when you guys saw me use that ROM application, and then the final thing you do to convert the ROM image that you would use for your emulator, sorry, the ROM archive file or zip file, to the rom.nes file, which is what the emulator uses as a ROM. And then you would dump that on top of Famicom, and then Famicom will split away the header information. And then what you didn't see is it will also separate the character ROM from the program ROM. So here's the original mask program ROM from Double Dribble. And then this chip here is called the character ROM. And it just so turns out that for whatever reason with these UNROM boards, you don't have to replace the character ROM, only the program ROM. Remember, you know, the chips themselves are replaceable and cheap. It's usually the board itself is ultimately what's going to be the expensive part, because you can't just order a board from the electronic supply house. Usually it's what's in your device, or in this case, what's in the cartridge. And if you melt the board, you're either going to have to try and patch it with a wire, if you can. If you can't, you're going to have to buy a whole new cartridge. So so go slow and easy is, I guess, what I'm trying to say. And one other quick note, I just couldn't bring myself to waste a ultraviolet erasable EPROM on a cartridge, and to mount this, this is a 28-pin mass-programmed PROM that's got the Double Dribble program on it that we're replacing. It's 28 pins, and that's of course what the board is made for. The ROMs themselves are 32 pin, and so to get them so they'll fit, you have to bend the pins up. And of course, if you bend the pin up, you'd never, well, you'd not likely be able to reuse this. And these are getting a little bit harder to find, but what's easy to find and what's cheaper to buy, and not only are they cheaper to buy, but they're cheaper to buy new than it is to buy a used EPROM that's ultraviolet erasable, are one-time-programmable, or OTP ROM. So this one, and it's a little hard to see the label, but it is an Atmel, and it's the same part number, 27C010. One-time programmable, so there's no window, but I think it was like less than a couple dollars. And so I just quickly reprogrammed the Castlevania game into this ROM. And then I don't feel so bad about bending these pins up so that it'll fit into our PC board here. I'm going to try and do this with one hand. And see, now with those pins bent up, it fits onto our board just fine, right? And then you can see all the holes are sticking through. I'll post a link to a website that shows how to solder this stuff, but I'm going to go ahead and solder this up really quickly. Basically, there's a couple of jumper wires that I need to add to solder to these pins, and that's it. And then we just put it back in the cartridge and we're ready to play our game. So I'll solder this up really quick and I'll show you what it looks like when I'm done. So I've soldered in the new ROM with Castlevania. And remember I said that this new chip, sorry about the camera movement there. Remember I said this new chip is 32 pin versus 28 of the original. So you can see pin 1 and 2 are bent up, and pin 32 and 31 are bent up. Also pin 24 is bent up. Then before you install the ROM, you solder to hole number 22 a wire, which is then connected, let's see, that is connected to pin 2 on the ROM, okay? Pin 1 is connected to pins 32 and 31, and then there's a wire that connects that string. Come on and focus. That string of wires to pin 1. Okay, so that's where it gets its 5-volt. Then pin 16 is the ground, and pin 16 is connected to pin 24. That's the pin in the middle that we bent up there. And everything else is just soldered in like normal, right? And if you're wondering why didn't I wire it a little more neatly, the reasoning is because I wired it in a way that there's a reinforcement in the cartridge, and I didn't want any of the wires to run across that reinforcement in the cartridge casing, because that reinforcement is meant to ride directly on the circuit board to hold it tight. So I'll show you what I mean here. Let's see, let me put this down for 1 second and show you. Here's the front of the cartridge, so I'm going to lay that piece down, and then we're going to take our PCB here and we're going to lay this face down. You can see there's a notch that fits, right? Kind of holds it tight, and I'll try and hold the camera steady there. There's another notch. This holds the PCB tightly in the cartridge. Then these wires need to be down just a little bit and closer to this row of pins here, so that, this would be easy if I had 8 hands, so that you see these ridges here. The ridges, let's see if I can get you a good view of that. The ridges need to be able to ride directly against the board, and then here's the notches that need to notch in. So let's see. Anyways, the goal here is to get it all to fit nice and tightly in the cartridge, so that we don't have any bulges that might make it difficult to get into the game system when this is complete. Anyways, I'm going to double check the fit here, put the screws in, and then we'll give it a test and see how it works. Alright, so here we are in my living room. I got Castlevania plugged into my NES clone here. Right next to it you can see my other double dribble cartridge, which had a nice label, so I left that one alone and converted the one that used to have a screwed up label to Castlevania. So let's turn the power on. And what do you know? It worked. Pretty cool, huh? Alright, that's it. Tune in next time, and we'll see what other project I can get myself into, and I'll take you along with me. See you later. Bye.